Hi, this is my tutorial on simple photo cropping and saving using Photoshop. Now I use an older version of Photoshop. I think it's Photoshop CS or 8. I admit I don't know what the differences are between Photoshop and Photoshop Elements. I do know that the basic stuff I'm going to show you can be done in Elements and the same tools should be available, but may be called something different. I hope you Element users will know what your tools are and which ones are comparable to the Photoshop tools. We will only be using a few of the tools and opening a few of the tabs, so I think it will not be that difficult for the Element users to follow along. First, I will open an image from yesterday with the family. The first little tool I will show you, I love it so much, it's called Actual Pixels. You locate this by selecting the little magnifying glass. It's called the zoom tool in Photoshop. If you select that, and up at the top it says Actual Pixels. See how it shows you your image at actual pixels? If you want to see if you have a good image, you look at it with actual pixels. This is not stretched or distorted in any way and shows you exactly what you have to work with. If it's nice and sharp here, kudos to you. If it's not, don't panic, because sizing it down and a little sharpening can do wonders. More on that later. Okay, my crop tool is set at 4x6 at 250 dpi. Select crop, and here 4x6 250 dpi resolution. I set it at that because I know that is ideal for printing. I'm going to take it off of actual pixels so that we can see the entire image on the screen. Back to the crop tool. Alright, we're going to crop this because there's too much head space on this image. I want it to come in a little closer, right about there. And I'll double click. Notice that it made it smaller on my screen. That's because I have the DPI set at 250. If I go back and undo that and remove the 250 DPI, we're just going to let it fall where it may. We'll do the same crop. Now, we can go up and look at the image size by going up here, select Image, then Image Size, and this window will open. These are the numbers you want to look at. The width and height, 3.99, essentially 4 inches by 6. And see the resolution, that's the DPI, 578.333. Now, even if it's only 180, anything from 180 and up, I'd still take a chance to print that, and it will probably come out fine. If it's larger than 250, you can just bump that number down right here, and you're done. So that's what we'll do. We'll bump that down to 250. And we'll say OK. By rolling my mouse, I can see this get a little bit bigger. Or we can go back to actual pixels. And this is our actual pixels. Now, if you feel like your image needs a tiny bit of sharpening, I use the Unsharp Mask with these settings. Unsharp Mask is under Filter, and I have it selected here, but if it's not already last used, then you would go down to Sharpen and Unsharp Mask. And the settings I use are 60%, Radius 1, and Threshold 0. I'm going to select OK. Now the important thing if you use Unsharp Mask is to do it after your image is set to 250 dpi to get the best effect from that. Always remember to do it after your image is at the size you want to print it at. So that sharpened a little bit, and it's just the tiniest little bit, and it doesn't overdo it. So now we will select up here under File, Save As, and I have my proof folder here. We'll open that and save it. It's ready to print. Now when this window opens, it's your JPEG options. You always want your quality to be 12 or 10 to 12 is I would never go any lower than 10. That's the size of your file. I set it to baseline standard, and the number here stays on 12 in my computer. We'll say OK, and it is ready to print. So we'll close that. Now let's find an image that isn't all that sharp at actual pixels. I'll show you that not all is lost if you're just wanting to print a 4x6. This is an example of my daughter and her boyfriend. At actual pixels, you can see that it's not very sharp. So we will crop it to a 4x6 at 250. I'm going to select this fit back on screen here so I can see the whole image. I'm going to go to my crop tool, 4x6. I'm going to stick that 250 in there and go back and crop this. Get it to where I want it. Alright, now let's look at it at actual pixels again. So the blurriness of it is not quite so evident when it's cropped. So we'll have to go up, and since my Unsharp Mask was used last, the settings are still there. All I have to do is hit Unsharp Mask, and it sharpens. Now, if I want it to be a little sharper than that, I can do it run it another time. But I think this is fine. So it sharpened it enough. This would print just fine as a 4x6. I'd go in, save it in my proof folder, and we're done. To sum up, always use Save As, and just remember to never increase or stretch an image. That's where you lose resolution, and it will make your images pixely. Cameras nowadays have such a high resolution that it's not really necessary to ever have to stretch an image out. If you're having pixely prints, I strongly encourage you to check out your camera settings and be sure you're shooting at the highest resolution possible. And don't crop your images so tight that it causes them to become stretched out. Changing your shooting strategy might help. Rather than shooting at a distance and cropping in tight, try shooting closer to your subject. I hope this has been helpful. Happy cropping!